What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into Mariners Chatter. My name is Dacota Haynes, your host. Happy Father's Day. Belated Father's Day when you are watching this, but recording this here on Sunday, June 19th, Father's Day. So, Mariners are coming off of a series against the LA Angels, losing 4 out of the 5. Going to break down this series. Talk about Robbie Ray, talk about Justin Upton joining the Mariners. Just dive right in. You know, the Mariners offense has been kind of stagnant. They haven't had that spark that they've needed in the lineup for quite some time, ever since Kyle Lewis went down with his concussion. Now, this is quite interesting because Kalu is ramping up his baseball activities again, and the Mariners need to start winning if they want to make the playoffs. And if Kyle Lewis can come back, provide that spark once again, you know, the Mariners start winning every series, go on a big win streak, something could happen. But it's not looking promising. The Mariners do host the 2023 All-Star Game. The last time the Mariners hosted the All-Star Game, they won 116 games. So, you know, if the Mariners don't make the playoffs this year, at least that's promising for next year. But let's talk about the All-Star Game this year. I mean, there's 2 to 3 players who really deserve to be in it. One of them being Mariners rookie Julio Rodriguez, and the other being Ty France. Now, you can make a case for Logan Gilbert, and Logan definitely does deserve to be in there. But I think he might just miss out. But then again, you know, pitchers or fans don't get to pick pitchers. So Logan also has that going for him. Pitchers are selected by the manager, which will probably end up being Dusty Baker. But the fact of the matter is that the Mariners are looking good for next year. They have a core. They just need to go out, you know. And coming into this season, you knew that the bullpen was going to struggle. It's one of those things where a bullpen is good one year and can completely suck the next. Now, there are some bright spots in this year's bullpen. Eric Swanson has a 1.08 ERA. Paul Sewald, even though he struggled a little bit, has a 2.9 ERA. Penn Murphy has been a bright spot. Diego Castillo, whether you like him or hate him, you know, he's been on a really good stretch except for the other night. So whether you like the bullpen or not, you know, every year is different when it comes to the bullpen. Sometimes you get a bullpen that's really good. Sometimes you don't. It's just the way baseball goes. That's why you try to add in pieces here and there and see if you can fix them and see if you can add to that bullpen. But the pieces that the Mariners added this year, Ken Giles hasn't come up yet, but Eric Swanson, when he came back, he's been an integral piece to the bullpen this year. Andres Munoz, he's been decent for the Mariners this year. But at the end of the day, you're talking a bullpen that has had its fair share of struggles, especially when the bright spot on the pitching side has been the rotation. And speaking of the rotation, Robbie Ray over the last 2 games has looked to improve himself. You know, we're talking a guy that there for a while, you know, was giving up a big run here, a big run there. But Robbie Ray, over the last 2 games. He's gone 7 innings in both games. His last start against the Angels, he had a no-hitter going into the 6th inning, gave it up in the 7th inning, ended up giving up 3 hits, struck out 10 batters, and only gave up 1 run. That's an ace pitcher right there. That's what the Mariners were hoping for when they picked up Robbie Ray. So now that they have the Robbie Ray that they wanted, and now that you have Logan Gilbert finally being himself again, and Chris Flexen, still being consistent, Marco looking a lot better, George Kirby doing okay. You're talking a team that over the past couple of weeks just won 4 out of their last 6 series, losing the 5-game series to the Los Angeles Angels, which that one kind of stings a bit, especially with it being a AL West rival. But at the end of the day, you've got to say that the Mariners still have a chance. There's still a chance. Might be slim, but there's still a chance. Take a look back at 1995. And I mentioned this last week when my brother was on the podcast. In 1995, the Mariners were 16 and a half games back at the All-Star break. They came back and made the playoffs. Their deepest run went to the ALCS and lost to the New York Yankees, I believe it was. Yeah, because they beat the Cleveland Indians. Excuse me, my bad. I had that flip-flopped. They beat the New York Yankees and lost to the Cleveland Guardians, or back then the Indians, in the ALCS. And you want to take a look at that roster, you can actually compare it to this year's roster. You've got a stud outfielder in Julio Rodriguez. Back then it was Ken Griffey Jr. You've got a couple guys in the outfield that can hit home runs. Jared Kelnick down in AAA. Taylor Trammell has a lot of power. Justin Upton, hopefully he can provide you some power, and we'll talk about Upton here in a little bit. But when you look at this roster, you had a stud first baseman. You have Ty France now. You had good pitching. You have good pitching now. The bullpen wasn't great back then. It's not great now. So you can compare this roster up and down to the 1995 Seattle Mariners. Now, whether you want to believe that this team has the magical stuff that 1995 team did, it's up to you. But I see the comparisons in the 2 lineups. I see the comparisons in the 2 rosters, up and down. I saw it last year, and I see it again this year. Last year, you just didn't have that stud center fielder that you do right now. That was the one missing piece last year. If Julio would have been doing what he's doing right now last year for the Mariners, we would have been talking about a team that would have made the playoffs. But Julio was in the minors last year, wasn't ready. And some can say Kelnick might not have been ready. I mentioned that a couple weeks ago. But at the end of the day, the Mariners did end up winning 90 games last year. Now, whether they win that many this year or not, still a tale to be told. They do have a lot more experience, a lot more playoff experience on this year's roster. And they just added more with Justin Upton. Justin Upton didn't have a great year last year. We're talking a guy that has been in the league for quite some time. He's been with the Arizona Diamondbacks, the team that drafted him, the Atlanta Braves, the San Diego Padres, the Detroit Tigers, and was with the Angels from 2017 to 2021. Over the course of his career, he's played in 1,800 games, has a career .262 batting average, 349 doubles, 38 triples, 324 home runs, 1,000 RBIs,
779 walks, and 151 stolen bases. He's a 4-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger. And the Mariners are just looking for him to provide a little bit of power to a roster to a lineup that has gone a little stagnant. Now, last year he saw his batting average dip to a 211, but he still hit 17 home runs in 89 games with the Angels. Now, the Mariners, they did have to send Sam Haggerty down to AAA, and Haggerty's a guy that can play both the infield and outfield, but he's not a power guy. He doesn't hit for power. He doesn't hit for average. But in AAA, Haggerty hit 304 with 9 doubles, a triple, and 5 home runs. He's a guy that you can call up when you need a replacement. And he's a very solid speedster. You know, he can go out there and steal you a couple bases. But the Mariners are just looking for Justin Upton to provide a little bit of a spark. So whether it happens or not, just take this season as it is. You know, Mariners were looking to do a lot better this year with the roster that they had coming into this season. And then the additions that you made with Robbie Ray, Adam Frazier, Eugenio Suarez, Jesse Winker, who's been struggling. Jesse Winker has struggled probably the most out of anybody in this roster. And it's not even that he's struggling, because he's still hitting the ball, but the balls just aren't falling for him. The balls just aren't going his way. He has third most balls in play on the team. He has more balls in play than J.P. Crawford. You know, but you look at last year's roster and you look at this year's roster, and this year's should be better. Now, I don't agree with the fire Scott Service comments. This ain't Scott's fault. There's been injuries on the team this year. Winker hasn't been doing as good as he did last year. This ain't Scott's fault. Now, yeah, sure. You want to talk about Scott Service handling the bullpen. He handles it the best that he can, and he has high leverage guys. There's no certain closer. There's no certain guys that pitch in a specific spot in a specific inning. He just goes with the high leverage guy that's available, and he believes in his guys. So I don't believe the fire Scott Service comments. You can hate me for it, but I don't believe him. Because Scott Service, we're talking a guy that last year was also the runner-up for American League American League Coach of the Year. We have the Cy Young, last year's Cy Young, and Robbie Ray. We have a Cy Young candidate in Logan Gilbert. The way that the season is going, it's not Scott's fault. The Mariners didn't expect for Jesse Winker to be struggling this much. They didn't expect for Jared Kelenic to be sent back down to AAA this year. They were hoping that he'd be up in the big leagues. They're hoping that that spark that he provided at the end of the season would last until this year. That was the turning point for Kelenic's career. But Kelenic did struggle and got sent down. Toro's struggling. You never expected that, especially with what Toro did last year when he came over to the Mariners. You know, you have Dylan Moore, who's being Dylan Moore, providing big home runs for you. You know, you have Taylor Trammell, who has come up and has been phenomenal. I wouldn't say phenomenal, but he's been good. There for a while, he's hitting over 250. I'm not sure exactly what he's hitting at the moment. Didn't pull those stats up, but, you know, you're talking a team that has just struggled. You know, they've had a lot of injuries. You know, Tom Murphy, he went down with an injury. Hasn't come back yet. Might be out for the rest of the season. Who knows? You know, you have Cal Raleigh, who has 8 home runs and is looking better. But at the end of the day, the way that the season has fallen, it's not Jerry Dacota or Scott Service's fault. This is baseball. A lot of baseball players fail 75% of the time. A player can be really good one year and suck the next. It's just the way that the game of baseball goes. It's not anybody's fault. So I don't want to hear this blaming Scott Service anymore. Now, Scott may not have playoff experience or managerial experience before coming over to the Mariners. You might be right there. But do you really want a Joe Madden that couldn't do it with the Angels? Do you really want another manager in this dugout who the team might not listen to? Now, maybe the Mariners do need a new voice in the clubhouse. There's always that. But I don't think it's Scott Service's fault. I don't think this is Scott's fault. He can't control the injuries. He can't control the lineup. He puts the lineup together. But if one of his star guys goes down, what do you expect him to do? I mean, there's nothing he really can do at that point. Sergio Romo. He's a guy that has a world championship. He's a guy that has experience. He struggled. Diego Castillo has struggled this year. Service isn't the fault for that. He trusts his guys to go out there and get him the outs that he puts them in the situation for, because they're high leverage guys and they've struggled this year. It's baseball. It happens. So just sit back, relax, enjoy the rest of the season. And as always, go Mariners.